God bless you, everybody. Today is December 5th, 2018. It's the wee hours of the morning. So when I woke up, which was many hours ago, I woke up from a dream where I was looking at a list that was where I was being told 10 characteristics, 10 things that characterize a narcissist. And there were various things. I can't remember the details of what they were now. But what I did remember was that people don't consider this bad. There was one particular characteristic, or maybe more, that I knew that people don't really see the characteristics as signs of an evil person. They're unable to recognize evil. And they don't run. They just it's kind of like if you're in a room with natural gas. If it's colorless and if it's odorless, or we say carbon monoxide, colorless and odorless. And although it can make you sick and kill you, you don't know what's making you sick. There are people who the whole family will be having certain symptoms. And, occasionally they'll discover that they have a carbon monoxide leak in their house just by the symptoms. So this is one of those things when you're dealing with a narcissist. It's one of those things that you have to know by the symptoms. Now, I'm talking specifically about a certain type of narcissist in this video. Basically, there are two types of narcissists that can really destroy you. They can destroy you physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, is the most devastating way. They can get you all the way out of God through bitterness and anger and hatred that you can develop for them. So the type I'm going to talk about is the covert, passive-aggressive, covert narcissist. Passive-aggressive, covert narcissist. The other kind is an overt narcissist. They're basically motivated by the same things, which is immaturity. They have not had the soul disciplined. They haven't had the foolishness disciplined out of them as children, and or they simply choose to be evil. The covert, passive-aggressive narcissist is the one that's so dangerous, because they're, instead of like a madman with a gun that just comes into a room shooting people, the covert narcissist is more like a sniper that puts on a disguise and goes and hides at the top of a building, puts a silencer on their gun, and they're able to pick people off one by one, and no one ever figures out where the shots are coming from. You can't even defend yourself. Because it's like carbon monoxide gas coming into your house. Everybody's sick, but you can't smell it and you can't see it. You just know something's terribly wrong, something's not right. And me and this person just have a problem. And no matter what I do, nothing ever fixes it. It's just a problem. And it's mysterious. It's baffling. And there's nothing in this world that's baffling unless it's from the devil, because he's the author of confusion. Truth makes sense. Truth falls into place. So if it doesn't make any sense and it's all convoluted and just hurtful and harmful and you can never get to the bottom of it, you should smell a rat. You should smell the devil. It's evil, wickedness, iniquity at work. It's the mystery of iniquity. Truth brings clarity and peace and freedom. So that the other kind, like I said, they can devastate your life as well. But the difference is, you know that this person is a problem. You know that this person is a problem. But the covert narcissist, they are able to make you think that they are not a problem. There is no problem. And if there is a problem, it's just you. It's just you. And meanwhile, you're just dying. You're literally dying on the inside. And this person is watching it all, well aware of it, choreographing it, and guess what? Enjoying it. They wouldn't stop it if they could. They wouldn't stop it if they could. I'm just going to address the overt, aggressive narcissist really quick, because that's not going to be the focus of this video. But they're motivated by the same thing. They're miserable, unhappy. They get pleasure out of pulling other people into their misery, into their miserable world. When they are raging and causing trouble and doing things to destroy you and ruining your life, you know it's them. You know they're doing it. They're sending emails to all your friends. They are contacting your job. If it's someone that you're romantically involved with, if you have children with them, they are using the children to hurt you. They're withholding the children from you to hurt you. They're talking about you to the children, making the children afraid of you, maybe even accusing you of abusing the children. There's such horrible people that they'll even accuse you of molesting children, that you would never dream of doing anything like that. And they would even, that's devastating to a child if you tell them someone's molesting them and they're not, and you get them to go along with that. That's sick. Kids have no business having any dealings with sexual discussions. They should remain innocent. But these people are just that sick. There are people that actually will do stuff like that because they hate you so bad. because they're ragers. They're just raging. And you, if you become a target of one of these people, they want to destroy you. And that's horrible. You hear how terrible that sounds. But as horrible as that is, there's someone that's worse. And that is the person that is subtle with it. That is the person that is cold and calculating enough to remain hidden, to lie and deceitfully go behind your back and talk about you to people. They will secretly contact your friends. They'll tell devastating lies on you. And you'll have a good friend, and all of a sudden you finally found someone that's supportive and, someone to help ease the burdens of life. And the next thing you know, they're acting different towards you. Or you just go into a certain atmosphere. These things are really painful. You go into a certain atmosphere, and this person, this narcissist that's in your life, has been there ahead of you. They got there ahead of you. And everyone who you know that they know in this environment, maybe you guys go to the same church, or if they're in your family, they've done this with all the family members. And I mean everyone. They'll go and innocently tell the people things about you. They'll say, well, John has had some financial difficulties. Well, he tries, but he just can't get it together. He's so behind on his child support, and just, they'll paint you in a certain light. Or and they always do it in a way that doesn't make them look like they're trashing you. They'll say it they'll just say it in a way that doesn't make them look bad, but it's going to color that person's thoughts towards you. So they will have poisoned an environment for you to where when you go to this place, you can't be yourself. You just feel uncomfortable. There'll just be something icky there where you're not comfortable with these people. Or this person will violate your privacy with these people. So that unbeknownst to you, your life is just an open book in this place. And it causes people not to have any respect for you because they know all your personal, intimate details, and you don't know it. You're just like, the person that's on the outside of this joke. And you'll actually think that you won't know why you don't feel comfortable in this place. You won't know why it's so weird when you go there. Or you just don't enjoy it. And if this person is very close in your life, they've done that to all the circles that you run in. All of them. Every one of them. This is the reason why this is so devastating. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, the other kind of narcissists, they can devastate your life too. They really can. They can cause you to backslide. They can literally cause you to backslide. They can ruin you. Financially, socially, spiritually, every way. But somehow they're still not as bad as the hidden, passive-aggressive narcissist. The aggressive narcissist, you see them, you see what they're doing. It's horrible, it's awful, it's devastating, but you quickly identify your enemy. Doesn't stop them from being an enemy. They're horrible. It's gut-wrenching. I can't even describe it. But this other person, they can just do far more damage because you don't know where to build the walls at. And they can operate in your life for decades. 5, 10, 15, 20 years, all your life. Because more than likely, this person is either a parent or a spouse. Now, since we're in the end times and God is speaking to us, all this also relates to the end times. And I want to read you a scripture. Okay. All right. I'm in the book of Matthew, chapter 10. Here we go. This is beautiful. This is so beautiful. Oh. I'm just trying to see where to start here because it's all good. All right. As you know, when Jesus was with his disciples having his last supper with them, and he was instructing them to the very end in the kingdom of heaven. And he said, you know, as my Father sent me out, I'm going to send you out. You're going to be sheep among wolves. So, here we are. That's who we are in the earth. The whole earth story about man is a struggle of evil against good. And the Lord told us, be not overcome of evil. Overcome evil with good. Good is not struggling against evil. Evil struggles against good. God doesn't have to struggle against evil. He's letting it play out. And because of that fact, we have to endure. So Jesus came into the earth to teach us what is good. And just like Cain and his brother Abel, when Cain, whose heart was not right, was with his brother, it exposed him as he looked at his brother. And how did Cain respond? He responded with anger and hatred toward his brother. God gave him the real answer, the thing that he ought to do. Genesis chapter 4, and Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I've gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of the sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought the fruit of the ground, and brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. Cain got an attitude and was angry. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood. Okay. So, instead of Cain addressing his real problem, and his problem was that he had not done well. His heart wasn't right. He was half-stepping. Instead of him addressing that, and it was identified to him by the Lord himself, he decided to focus his rage. It says Cain was very wroth because the Lord didn't accept his offering, because it wasn't acceptable. But the Lord accepted his brother's offering. Now the Lord didn't reject Cain's offering because he received Abel's offering. The two things had nothing to do with each other. Even if Abel hadn't offered nothing, Cain's offering was still unacceptable. It wasn't unacceptable based on anything that Abel was doing. It was all Cain's problem. The problem was in Cain. But somewhere in the nature of Cain, his sights got set on his brother instead of on himself. And he sought to work out his anger and his misery. So his countenance was fallen. He had a long face. So he's sad and mad because he's bad. And instead of him taking that up between himself and the Lord, he decides to distract himself only momentarily and vent his rage on his brother. And he killed his brother. So, this is a narcissist. Now, Cain was a type of narcissist. That's the first type I'm talking about. Still very devastating. He killed him. But imagine if he hid that anger. And he spent the next 1,000 years, because that's about how long these people were living, in his brother's life, behind the scenes, messing up every relationship that Abel, his brother, would ever have. And he might come back and tell him, you know, Cain, remember that girl I liked? Suddenly she won't talk to me anymore. Things just don't feel right anymore. And Cain will get more information out of him just to go mess up the next relationship. He'll go back and talk to their other brothers and sisters. Go tell things to the mother, but do it in a really sneaky way. Not like nothing that will make that person say, well, Cain came and told me that you said this. Did you say that? Because that would clear things up. No, these people are far more devious and they're way smarter than that. They're not like that person that just comes raging at you. This is a subtle, undercover type person. And let me give you some examples. I'm going to give you some real life examples. There was a woman who was this covert, passive-aggressive narcissist. Dangerous, devastating, wicked, worthy of death. Worthy of death for the war that's in their hearts. This woman married a man to get out of her house. Married, they were teenagers. She married a man to get out of the house. And the man, she carried on with the man as though she liked him. They were like, by teenagers, I mean, late teens. With 19, 20, like that, 18, 19, 20. So she would coming on to the man sexually. And she ends up getting pregnant. And he, being a decent young man, married her. All right. But because she did not love him, never did love him, and Perhaps he would have found out what type of person she was and not married her had she not gotten pregnant, but that kind of rushed things along, so they end up getting married. She doesn't love the man. She was intimate with him to lure him in. She wanted to, suck him in and trap him and get out of the house. He was a intelligent young man, and you could just tell he was headed places. But he wasn't that exciting Casanova type of guy. He was just the kind of little nerdy, wore glasses, kind of chubby type. But had a good head on his shoulders, came from a solid family, and he was headed places. And she just used him. She was willing to marry this guy, having no love for him. So she did just that. And then when he's expecting affection and love, care, and consideration from this woman, he's not getting it. He's just, you feel this cold, devastating emptiness when you're around these people. And that's what he felt when he was around her. But what you get, if you try and really examine it, look at it, maybe ask him about it or address it, or what you get is, "Hi, what's wrong?" "Oh, nothing." You just get all these games. The person, they play the role, but the feelings that you get are unmistakable. It's as though you are dealing with a demonic enemy that hates you, but whenever you look at it, it appears like a lamb. I mean, it appears like a lamb. It's like that sniper. It's like a person, they have a bouquet of flowers in one hand and a knife in the other. And you got your eyes on the bouquet of flowers. And any chance they get, they're stabbing you with that knife. They don't have to have a reason. The reason's already built in. It's just like Cain. There's nothing in that verse that says that Abel provoked Cain in any way. Cain was not provoked. He was motivated by what was going on inside of him, and it had nothing to do with his brother whatsoever. His brother was doing what he was supposed to be doing. But Cain was messed up. But these people, they have a certain ability to perceive situations and to then therefore maneuver inside those situations. They can read people. Now the raging kind like Cain was, they just kind of react and they expose themselves really quickly. Still can devastate you. You still can end up, like Abel, with your blood spilled on the ground. No more Abel. So it's still bad. But just imagine that same war that Cain had for Abel. But imagine it, and Abel is unsuspecting. Cain hides it at every turn, but he still, in every interaction that he has with his brother, he's still acting out on that same hatred, but he disguises it as something else. So this lady, she marries this guy, and he's thinking, I'm going to go and do what my parents did, and we're going to have kids, and I'm going to work and take care of everything. I'm going to be the head of my house, and that's what we're going to do. But then this girl, she had totally opposite ideas. She married him to get out of the house. So her goal was accomplished. She's out of the house. Now she doesn't want anything to do with this guy. She does not want anything to do with this man. She doesn't want him touching her. She doesn't share herself. And I don't mean her body. I mean her person. You get married to connect with that other person. But these people are very secretive. Even though they may talk, they're never saying anything. They're never revealing anything about themselves because they can't. They can't talk about deeply felt, heartfelt conversations where you have that deep, gratifying conversation with a person where you guys just go on an adventure in each other's hearts and minds. And hours pass and you're talking and you're just intimate in your conversation with that person because they're totally open with you and you're totally open with them. Human beings were meant, we were created for that type of a fellowship. And when we don't have it, you can be lonely. Or when you let these destructive people, these angry, hateful people who are at odds with themselves and they're at odds with God, but they hide it, and you let these people in your life, and you let them into the intimate places of your being through trusting them. And what will happen is you don't notice it, but they're not doing the same thing. Everything they tell you is carefully crafted, not to reveal anything. But everything that they're saying is to build a false self around themselves. They are building who they want to be. They want to be more than what they are, something that they're not. They want to be heroes, admired. They want to be received. They want to be received by God and everyone, but they don't want to do what is right. You want to be a hero, but you don't want to save anybody. You want to be seen as magnanimous and generous and virtuous and perfect. This is how they want to come off. They want to be rich and elegant and admired, worshipped, even worshipped. They want to be seen as this bigger than life figure. They build a persona, an outward image that is not who they are. And this person is the nicest person you've ever talked to. The most generous person you've ever talked to. The friendliest. They're just over the top sweet. This is this hidden type of narcissist. If they ever tell you no, it's because literally, their grandmother just died. And otherwise, you just know they would have done it. They're very generous. But one thing that I've learned about all of them that are generous, it's with other people's money. They're thieves and liars. So they're very generous with other people's money. There was a woman who robbed, her name was Rita Cromwell. She was the city comptroller of a city called Dixon, Illinois, for 22 years, right out of high school. And during that 22 years, she stole 53, not thousand, $1 million from this tiny city of, I think it was like, the population of that city was under 15,000. It might have been much less than that, but it was under, very small town, Dixon, Illinois. This woman robbed $53 million from that city because she was this, like the city treasurer. She handled all the city's accounts. She was trusted. She was just, she just was perfect in every way. Perfect in every way. No one suspected anything. They just kind of thought she was independently wealthy. Even though she had started quite average and come from just a regular little blue-collar family like most of the other people in that town. It's such a small town that the mayor was part-time. She was one of the very few full-time workers in that town. And I think she was the only city official that was full-time. So no one knew what was going on. She had secret accounts set up. And she was above reproach because she was so overboard in her niceness, in looking so noble. So when they build this false self, so anyway, what she did was she just built an empire. She bought $1 million horses. She had over a $2 million RV. That all this stuff she bought with the city's money, while the city was broke. And I mean broke. She was just a crook. A crooked crook. And her whole thing was she wanted to be seen as this rich, elegant woman who was so generous. She bought lavish gifts for people. She threw big parties, big all-you-can-eat barbecues, and so very generous, but with other people's money. They literally have no conscience. Nothing that they're doing bothers them. Somehow in their mind, they always have a justification for it, or they don't need a justification for it. If they want it, they do it. And you don't matter. They need admirers. They need limelight. So what this woman did was she went around the country doing horse shows. And because she had basically unlimited money, she could buy the finest horses. She would win national horse shows year after year after year after year. Because she was a thief. It wasn't her hard-earned money. And she just would beam with pride as she's accepting these awards, and as she's circling the horse ring to the applause of thousands of people. This is every narcissist's fantasy. And she was living it out, all with other people's money. And all with lies. And no one really got close enough to her to really question things and know that she had no way of having that sort of money. She kept all the worlds of her life very separate. She kept her people that she knew in her town where she grew up with separate from her horse empire. She never had children. And she lavished things upon her boyfriend. She just was a thief. So my point in telling that story is that they're generous, but it's other people's money. And you get that mentality that they have. They build this false self. Her false self was that she was this rich, independently wealthy horse empire. And she just helped out the city for just the love of the city, love of her hometown. Here's this super rich lady. She doesn't have to work at all, but she loves Dixon so much that she works tirelessly here just to help us out. They want to be seen as noble and good, and they're so over the top noble and good and friendly and warm. None of it's real. It's all way over the top. But they do so much of that, and they've done it so much, and they'll do things for people. And once you do something real big for a person, like I know this one lady, she was like this. She bought a furnace for this guy. And she sent someone out there to install the furnace. Because she heard that he bought a house and the furnace wasn't working. And it was coming up on wintertime and he was sick. And she sent someone over there to install that furnace. Now, don't you know, now she was a thief. Also an embezzler. Now, don't you know that everybody who heard that story will never believe anything bad about that woman? Did you hear what I said? They won't even hear of it. Oh, shame on you. You ought to be shaming yourself talking about that godly woman. But she stole the money that she bought the furnace with. You ought to be ashamed of yourself telling lies like that. I won't even listen to this. That's the way it goes. This is how these people build this ironclad image, and they just charm these people. They're just overly charming. See, I'm not talking about Cain that just got mad, flew into a rage, and clubbed his brother. You saw his hatred. You saw his wickedness. He offered something that was unacceptable to God. So it was sin. You saw it though. But these people that I'm talking about, you never see it coming. You never suspect it. Okay? So the lady that got pregnant by the young man, she wanted to get out of the house. So once she got out of the house, she was satisfied. He was going to go on and do big things, and she was going to ride off into the sunset once he became successful. But the problem was the man was expecting a wife. And when he found out the woman didn't want to live with him, he had to move for his career, and she would make excuses why she couldn't join him. Why she had to stay in that town. I'm coming, I'm coming. Just lies, 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 lies. I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. This happened, that happened. I can't do it. I can't do it. And defrauding him of her body because she didn't love him. She didn't want that corny guy. She wanted Casanova. So I don't know who started cheating first. But after a while, he looked for comfort elsewhere. And she did the same thing, and I don't know who started it. She ends up having a whole entire baby by an affair that she had. But she still managed, because she's a narcissist, she still managed to have outrage. He was the cheater. You never hear her talk about the fact that she has a child that's not his. And you know what she did? You guessed it, because they're liars. She told him it was his. She told him it was his. He knew it wasn't. But he could not anywhere inside his being imagine the evil that lurked in the heart of this woman that he married, because she was such a liar. She created this outer image that it just didn't jive up with what he was seeing from her. So, giving her the benefit of the doubt, being a decent person, you just believe people. Everybody thought she was so nice because she's not like that raging narcissist. She doesn't fly off into a rage. She stews. This passive aggressive. You know what that is? They're aggressive. They're every bit as hateful and aggressive as Cain. But they go about it in passive and subtle ways. Because they're smart enough to devise schemes. They're patient enough. They're cowardly enough to remain hidden. So they can keep doing it. So obviously that marriage didn't last long. But this person, even though the reason why the marriage broke up was because she never wanted to marry him in the first place. She never wanted him in the first place. She didn't want to sleep with him. When he moved for his job, she made excuses not to come, always promised she would come. She would go and leave. She was just devious. All because what the real truth was, I don't love you. I never did. I can't stand you. You're not my type. I married you to get out of the house and to have a stable future. She can't come out and say that to him. But all of her actions said it. That's why you can't listen to this. You can't look at that innocent look on their face. You have to watch what they do. If you move for your job and your spouse does not come with you, there's a problem. It doesn't happen because they don't want it to happen. They got all kinds of reasons why there's no intimacy, no physical intimacy in the relationship. You know, they got a headache. They're tired from the kids. There's this, there's that. There's this, there's that. Very dishonest with money. A spender, because always remember they're creating this false self, this grandiose self. So you got to dress the part if you want to impress everybody. So she's spending up the man's money. He couldn't save anything. You couldn't get a straight answer out of her. Where'd the money go? I gave you money for that bill. Where'd it go? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. You're always accusing me of things. And it just becomes this big ball of madness to try and question them. So if you have a weak man, he just gives up. He's not able to keep focus and fight through and say, now, wait a minute. I know I gave you money for that bill. Well, this happened and that happened. I had an emergency and this and this. And then he just got a lot of guys that don't like conflict. So they'll just, after they get hit with that barrage of confusion and crying and yelling and all that stuff, now that's when they will yell. When you back them into a corner and you start questioning them about what they're doing, you'll get a lot of tears and drama. And it's only designed to get you to back off. They're not feeling anything. They're not upset. If they're upset at all, it's at the possibility that the gig might be up. But over the years, they've become very confident. They've become very confident in their tactics because they've gotten away with it. And every person that they fool, they're honing their skills. They're becoming perfected in their lies and in their deceptions. So the man, he doesn't trust her. He's miserable. He can't figure out why, because her words are smooth as butter. She's got an excuse for everything. It's been like 4 years and she still hasn't joined him in the city that he had to move to. But there's always a reason. There's always an explanation for everything. And he just can't imagine. He can't get himself to believe this woman never loved me. She married me for security. She can't stand me. Your ego doesn't allow you to accept that. And plus the person is just lying through their teeth, looking dead in your eyes. So the marriage ends and she manages to feel like a victim. Oh, he left me. Well, most men would have. I'm not saying that it was right because he was not saved. But he did. He moved on. He went elsewhere. He moved on and had his successful career because the man, he was diligent and he was destined for success. And he left that marriage not knowing what hit him. He just didn't know what hit him. He couldn't put his finger on why things didn't work. Nothing made any sense. Because for every action that happened in that marriage, she fed him a corresponding lie. And when he's stringing all those explanations together, they don't fit together in any sort of coordinated way. It's just a mess. And I don't know what happened. And just, my God, I'm just glad to be out of that. But the bad news is you're angry and you're bitter and you hate them. You hate this person that has done this to you. You hate them every bit as much as they hated you. And you know who loses? You lose. Now, with that person that was raging against you, openly turning your friends against you, sending out, finding your emails, and sending emails out to all your friends, trashing you, and you knew all about it because your friends were like, hey, yo, you know your girl sent me and saying this stuff about you? Or she's goes through and friends everybody, every girl that you know on Facebook, every person that you love and admire and means anything to you, and trashes you to them. Horrible. People go through these things. But imagine if that person is slick and sly and devilish. And they're passive aggressive. They hate you. They're aggressive. They're dangerous. They're violent. But they do it in a passive way. They do it. They got that bouquet of flowers, but they got the knife behind their back, just waiting for you to turn around. They got one arm hugging your neck and the other arm stabbing you in the back, cutting you up. And they get away with it so long because we don't know they hate us. We know their actions are bad. We know they do bad things to us from time to time, but you always just give them the benefit of the doubt. You accept their explanation for why that happened. Well, you know that meant a lot to me, and I asked you not to do that, and you said you wouldn't, and they got an explanation. I just tried, and I did my best. And it's just not fair that you keep picking on me this way. And then they play the victim. They'll go into their horrible childhood. And they'll just be all traumatized. And then you just they dump all that on you, and then you just kind of forget about what they did to you. Oh, okay, if you were hung up by your toes as a kid, I guess you, ruining my birthday is a small thing. Okay. And you just slink on away and don't never know what hit you. This is the things that they do. Your heart, your mind, your soul, and your psyche, they all feel like you're being treated like garbage. But if you let this person tell it, nothing's wrong. I love you. It'll be just like that. You know I love you. I don't even have to say it. That's the kind of stuff you'll get. Now, this person can be a man or a woman. But women, they get away with it much more. Most of these people, I'm going to say, are women. Men can do it. Men can do it too. But most of them are women. And again, the reason is because you won't suspect them. They're just bad people. They're bad people. They're evil, and they know they're evil. They're evil on purpose. They pretend to be good people so they can keep getting away with what they do. The person that you see on the outside, you look at them, you think they wouldn't hurt a fly. Like I said, they're just bigger than life heroes. Oh my goodness. I mean, they save kittens from storm drains. and they stop fights in the street. But everything they do, they make sure people know about it. They do it in front of people, or they brag about it, but this is the way they brag. It comes off as bragging, but they put it in a modest way. Oh, you wouldn't believe what my Billy did. Oh, he's such a character. Oh my goodness. Oh, don't you know that silly boy, I told him, take those medals upstairs. Don't leave that stuff to scratch up my good table. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, boy. And then the next thing you ask is, you'll say, well, what medals? Oh, he won the Olympics. Or, yeah, he won the Nobel Peace Prize, that's all. They'll do stuff like that. They try to come off like they're not bragging because they're smart people. They know that bragging is looked down upon, is something that a true magnanimous person that's so humble and sweet would not do. So they got to be admired. So they got to find a way to slip it in there. So you got to know everything they did. Like that woman that put the furnace in for that guy. She made sure she called a contractor that she knew. And he could also go and tell what she did. Well, yeah, she bought the furnace and sent me out there. So the thing spreads around, or she'll just mention it. Well, yeah, I had to pour so-and-so. Yeah, his heat was turned off. I had to get him a furnace. It was, because it's a cold winter. They won't say, I got Johnny a furnace, and where would he be without me? They know not to come off like that. But nonetheless, they will let you know about everything they did. The Lord shows us to identify these people. How are we to do our alms and our good deeds and our praying? We're not supposed to do it in front of people. Do it secretly. Don't even let one hand know what the other hand is doing on your own body. Make sure no one knows what you did, so the Lord can reward you openly, because these people, they're satisfied with the reward of people thinking that they're this wonderful person. And so when you see a person that's really good, that's really a good person, they're even keeled, and they're not going out of their way to try to impress you. They're just an honest, decent person. But when you don't see them doing all these grand and wonderful things, and they're not throwing money all over the place because they don't have it, because they're not stealing it from people, they're not dishonest, you think, well, this is what a good person looks like. You think there's heroes in the world. But the real people who serve humanity, they do it quietly. They do it in the closet. They do it the way our Lord told us to do it. He said, when we give in simplicity. Don't sound a trumpet before yourself. So you think these are the good and great people, and who are you? Who are you, Sister Dusty? Now over there, that's a real man. That's a real woman. That's what I'm talking about. And then the people around them, they do a lot of good things for them. They'll reward you if you're loyal. They'll buy you stuff, do stuff for you. As long as you play along and you do the hero worship thing and help them look good in front of people, but if you ever see through who they are, you become fitted for destruction. You are in earthly trouble, and you're even in spiritual trouble, and I'm going to tell you why. The things that this person is going to do to you can make you stop praying and start cussing. They're going to be just like that other person. They're just like Cain. They're just like that wild person that gets your email contact list, or that infiltrates all your circles, your friends, your job, all the relatives that you guys may have in common. They're still going to badmouth you, but they're going to do it in a way that, well, listen, don't tell Arnold that I said this. Don't tell him. Because you know what's going to happen? It's going to make things worse for me. But, yeah, he hates me. I just don't know what it is. There's nothing I can do right when it comes to him. And, yeah, we don't have food in the house. And please don't tell him I said this. Please don't tell him I said anything to you about this. This is how they are. Or like I said, they'll say things like, well, he's behind on his child support. And the things don't even have to be true. They'll say, they'll just paint a picture of you to these people that just turns the people off against you. And when you go around those people, you feel that same icky feeling that you feel when you're around that person. And it's just a feeling because you don't have anything to attach it to, because everything they do is behind your back, undercover, phony, hidden with lies. But they can't hide that hatred. You still, somehow, your bones can still feel it, and you just feel awful when you leave their presence. And you might not be able to point to anything they said. Oh, well, they'll say stuff like this. Oh, my cousin Henry, he's a really good barber. Yeah. All his boys, their hair looks so nice all the time. Yeah, they just look so good. Well, so-and-so is just so successful. And you're sitting there like, well, what are you trying to say? Well, what am I? Well, what do you mean? Oh, I didn't mean anything by that. Oh. And they're just so hurt because you could have possibly thought they were saying something bad about you. And you're like, okay. And say you still insist. No, I don't like it when you say things like that. I don't like to be compared to other people. Every time I turn around, every time I come around you, come over here, it's, oh, wow. There's some gym memberships. Maybe you should think about joining the gym. Oh, they say that a person can have a heart attack and never have any symptoms. And what they're saying is, oh my goodness, are you going to really eat that pork chop? You just feel awful when you're around them because they hate you. You feel awful because they want you to feel awful. You feel awful because they don't like you. And just like the things that people who don't like you do, they take stabs and digs at you. But this person is skillful at coming off as the good guy. Everything they do, they're going to leave themselves a back door so that they can deny it. All right, I'm going to read you the characteristics that I wrote down. Number one thing that you have to get through your head, or you'll never get out of these situations. You'll never understand what's happened to you, and you'll never begin the process of healing from dealing with these kinds of people. So here's the characteristics. They hate you. Okay? Knock, 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 knock. Who's there? The truth. They hate you. I don't care how they act, what they say. Just that horrible feeling that you feel when you're around them, and that you feel with anybody who you know that they have access to, because they want to make sure everybody else is in on punishing you too. They hate you, and they poison every safe haven that you had in your life. They'll ruin your reputation at your job, but you'll never know what happened. You'll never know what happened. They tell your business, spread lies about you, or even spread some true things that you might not have wanted anybody to know. So they hate you. And you have all the signs and bruises and symptoms of dealing with someone that hates you, but they don't look like they do. So you never know where the blows are coming from. Okay. Number two, they are evil. They are evil people, and they know they're evil. They know that they are not good people. They know that they do terrible, horrible, bad things, even though they will never say it. They know what they're doing. They know that they're calculating. Number three, they are cowards. They are desperate cowards. They're not like, Cain. Cain went out and attacked Abel. Abel saw it coming, He wasn't able to get away from it, but he saw it coming. They're not like that wild person that, will just cuss you out and disrespect you in front of people. They do all their stuff undercover, behind your back, passively, because they're cowards. And you'll often see them, they're so manipulative, but you often see them being manipulated by aggressive narcissists, because they're really cowards. They don't know how to confront anything head on. They're not willing to, because they're cowards. That's why they always indirectly say things. They'll just imply things, because they don't want any conflicts. They're just cowards. So, number four, no one is allowed inside. They don't share intimate details of who they are. They don't ever tell you what makes them tick, because they can't. They don't tell you what's going on deep in their mind and soul, because it's all wicked. Like God said, it repented him that he made man upon the earth, because the imagination of his heart was only evil continually. You know what they're thinking? You're like that lady with her husband. You're what a dork. What a cornball. I wouldn't let you touch me with a 10-foot pole. Why did I even marry you? But they won't tell you that. It's just, I don't feel good today. So you don't know them. They don't have any real conversations with you, because they can't. Because what's really going on inside their head is socially unacceptable, and it would send you running in the other direction. So they're always liars. So you never have any meaningful conversation with them. And when they are trying to talk about things that seem like they're coming from the heart, it never has that genuine ring of truth to it. And it's always really over the top. They're this big hero and or they're this gigantic victim. They'll tell you things to like get sympathy out of you. Well, you know, when we were younger, we went so many days without food. You know, there were just times when, we were ill. There was just no food. And they'll always say things like that. And that's the only kind of things that seem like they're coming from the heart from them, all sympathy. Well, you know, my ex-husband, he was so wrong. He cheated on me constantly. Even though they, you know, 2 of the kids aren't even his. But they never tell you what they did. It's always something to just either make them look like a big hero or just a giant victim. It's always, well, oh, my kids, they're so ungrateful. And, oh, God help me if I fall into their hands when I'm older. And these kids might not be doing anything to them. It's just, well, you know, I know what it's like to be unappreciated. And you just pour yourself out for people and no one's ever as good a friend to me as I've been to them. I know a woman who said stuff like that. Just trying to guilt people into feeling sorry for her and feeling like they need to make up for all the bad stuff that's happened to them. So they want to just hook you in and get your loyalty. They beg for praise. That's another one of their characteristics. They're begging for praise. If they do anything for you, let's say they brought you or made breakfast, you need to make a big deal over whatever it was. It's so bad that you wish they wouldn't even do anything for you because you end up having to pay for it in praise and attention, and you just got to keep making a big deal about it, and you got to tell other people what they did. You got to seem so grateful. It's like, and the Bible tells us to give with simplicity. Whatever you give it in simplicity. You're not expecting anything in return. And if you can give it without the person even knowing that you did it, that's even better. Because you don't want the person, you're not giving to get back from this person. Jesus said when you give without expecting to receive anything in return. Don't give to the rich that can pay you back. Give to the poor, to the needy, to the unfortunate. Give to someone who doesn't have anything to give you back. That way you obligate God to give it back to you. That gets God's attention, and He's going to make sure you don't go unrewarded. But if you're giving to obligate that person, you want them to know how you slaved over that dinner. You want to just, after you make it, you just want to fall out on the couch and say, oh, my swollen feet. And they need to just rave over it. You can't give in simplicity. So the person ends up where they'd rather have done it themselves than exhaust themselves praising you. Just don't do anything for me. Stay away from me. You're draining me. You're killing me. So, another one, I already mentioned this. They have a false self. And the reason is their life is a lie. You have no idea who this person is. They have created this phony, grandiose image of themselves where they are this selfless, wonderful person. And they're rich and admirable, and they may even make up lies. And that's another thing. They tell whoppers. They're not going to just exaggerate a little bit. I mean, they're just going to flat out make up something ridiculous. I knew this one woman, she was dating this guy, and the whole time she was dating him, she was telling him she was in school. Now, a lot of these stories may or may not be about the same person or the same couple of people, because you don't have too many people in your life that's like this. These people are actually rare, which is why when you suffer at the hands of one of these people, no one can relate to you. No, you can't get anyone to understand it. You have to have gone through this in order to be able to recognize the backhanded things that these people do to you. To recognize and see through all of the facades and falsehoods that these people do to cover their tracks. So their whole life is a lie. So this woman, she was dating this guy, and she actually told this man that she was in medical school. She told him she was in medical school, and she barely graduated from high school. They're not dumb people. They're not dumb. So it's not like she was just, somebody that you absolutely positively could tell could not possibly go to medical school. But she was no medical student. But they cannot be satisfied with who they are. They have to puff it up. Because it's not enough for you to just think of them as every other person. They gotta be the biggest, the best. Everybody has to just ooh and ah over them. So they have a false self. That's why they can never talk about anything real. They can never talk about anything deep, because they don't have all the details about it. They can't talk authentically and deeply. They can't. They are liars. There is absolutely no truth in them. And they don't just tell small lies. They tell great, big, huge, barefaced lies. And only the people that are really closest to them know they're lying. And because of the swirling punishments that they give you if you go against them, the people in their lives don't tell on them. The people that are closest to them, there may just be a handful of people that know that this person is a big phony. But the person will punish them so bad if they try and reveal it or tell the truth or anything like that. The way they'll punish them, they'll turn people against them, because remember, they're shameless. They'll get to everybody you know, and you won't have a friend left, and you won't know where or when they will strike. You'll just know stuff is going wrong in your life. You just know you're just not happy. And you won't know it, but it's because this person is going behind you and ahead of you into every place that you can look for comfort, and they're spoiling it. And I know this sounds really wild, but this is what they do. This is what they do. Why? A lot of people make a mistake trying to look for why. And the why is simple. They hate you, and they're evil, and that's it. And they'll get away with it for more years than you'll care to know if you get caught up in looking for more than that. More answer than that. Because there isn't any more answer. The Bible doesn't go into Adam and Eve mistreating Cain or overlooking him for his little birthday parties. No, he just had a bad heart. His heart just wasn't right. and he wasn't willing to do what was right. And when bad things started happening to him, instead of him looking inside, he set his envy on the outside, and he attacked his brother. So they're liars. There's no truth in them. They want to take shortcuts. They want to do what's easy in life. They're thieves. Rather than doing what's right, they'll just say they did what's right. They're liars. They'll tell you anything. Number 10, they are submitted to demons. That one's kind of hard to explain, because this is not just your run-of-the-mill selfish person. This is a person that their heart is submitted to demons. They, like I said, they're evil and they know it. They're willing, and they consciously use evil tactics against you. They use you. They'll manipulate you. I'll keep going. Okay, this is another one that's hard for people to believe. Because they hate you and they're doing bad things to you, when you begin to react to those bad things, and they start to punish you, they enjoy seeing you in pain. They enjoy seeing that what they're doing to you is affecting you. Now, in one sense, that's no different than what other people do. Now, if we get into a fight with somebody and you hit them, or you guys are going back and forth calling each other names, you're saying those things to hurt them, right? When you balled up your fists and punched them in the gut, you were trying to hurt them. But what's so sinister about these people is that they're such cowards. They don't want you to fight back, so they don't want you to know you're in a war. They don't want you to know you're in a war, because you'll fight back. You'll come out with both guns blazing just like they do against you. So they remain hidden so that you're just mad. And every now and then you'll just kind of do something. But because part of you still kind of really doubts everything, you don't go full throttle against them. But the minute you don't go along with everything they're doing, they're punishing you. And you'll start to build up a resentment for them. And then when they sense that resentment that you have for them now, then they're really, it's just duck season on you. From then on, they're just trying to destroy you. They want to hurt you. They enjoy hurting you. They just enjoy hurting you. They're angry and they need somebody to take it out on. And even though they may never openly say that they hate you, they don't like you, except unless they get really mad and just blow up one day. And they may come back and do something really, really nice for you. And you'll just say, oh, he didn't mean it. She didn't mean that. Oh, I feel bad because I got angry and said some things. But they don't feel bad at all. But they just know I can't push that person too far, or I'll lose them and I'll lose my punching bag. After all, they belong to me. They owe me. I can control them, and I need that. They enjoy seeing you in pain. So no, when you leave their presence and you're always hurt and you find out these bad things they did, just realize they did it on purpose. They enjoyed hurting you. It gave them satisfaction to see that what they plotted against you had the effect. Just like when you're angry and your anger, when we're angry, you may be angry at someone something they actually did to you. But these people, they hate you without a cause. They hate you because they're evil. And they're just looking outside themselves for someone to take it out on. So that's another reason why Christians are the favorite target of these people. I'm going to link a video where I had a dream where Obama was this raging narcissist. And this lady said he's going to demand to be a superstar. He wants to be seen as just the greatest. He wants all the adoration and worship and praise. And he just can't tolerate anyone who sees through him or anyone who's not willing to praise him. So that's why he's going to hunt down the Christians. Because they have this false self that they have. They hate their real self. They know it's bad and wicked and evil. They don't want people to see them that way. Because then they won't know what's going to praise them. They're going to say, you're a dirtbag. So they need to come off looking like a hero. So anyone who's not in on the delusion, anyone who's not caught up in their narrative, they have to destroy you, because you can cause other people to doubt their greatness. You may tell what you know, or you may have figured out that they're doing bad things to you. You may know them well and seen how they've done those things to other people. And you might tell it. So they have to destroy you, discredit you, punish you to make sure you never even think about doing that. If they're the mother of your kids, you will not see those kids. No matter what they have to do, they'll stop at nothing. They become obsessed with destroying you. And they're so good at fooling people that they'll usually only be working on destroying one or two people at a time. So they can devote their full time to it. Because remember, they live to project this false image and to keep people from getting too close. They want you close enough to praise them, but not close enough to know they're lying. They love sympathy. We already talked about that. They make no sense. They don't make any sense. Because they're lying, the story never stays straight. It's one thing one day, and it's something. I thought you said such and such. Oh, no, I never said that. Well, I didn't mean that. They're inconsistent. Their stories don't add up if you really start piecing things together. But like I said, they give gifts. They're flatterers. They just come off so nice. They're so accommodating that most people, and don't forget, they've told you all these horrible things that have happened to them. So you don't push very far. They seem extra sensitive. They may cry easily. So you don't push too hard. You know, if they told you that, I thought you said that, that you didn't like so-and-so. Oh, I never said that. I like her. I can't understand why you'd say that. I don't have to take this. They'll leave. They just do whatever. Anything. They come up with the wildest things. That's why they're inconsistent. It's just whatever fits the moment. Whatever fits the moment. Oh, I would never do such and such. And then the next day, when it fits the whatever scenario or lies they're spending that day, oh, I always do that. Just whatever makes them look the best at that moment. That's what they'll say, and that's what they'll do. And it's just that simple. They have double standards. Nothing they say makes sense. If you really look at it, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. Their stories just don't add up. Like the lady I told you about who said she was in medical school. Well, you hanging out with them, but I thought medical students had to study a lot more than this. Well, how are you studying? How are you going to medical school and you got a part-time job? That usually, people can't handle. Oh, why? They just don't make sense. Their stories don't add up. They don't make sense. But they got an answer for everything. They talk the white off of rice. And they'll just, and if all else fails, change the subject. They are amazing hypocrites. The double standard is their way of life. They live by the double standard. If you're in an argument with them, which is a bad idea, but if you do happen to get sucked into an argument with them and you're trying to pin them down in all these lies that they're telling you, they'll say something like, well, how am I supposed to know how to fix our relationship, how to make things better, if you won't be honest with me and tell me what's going on, what's on your mind? But then you ask them what's on their mind, you're violating my privacy. This is not a good time to talk. This isn't about feelings. This isn't about what happened before. We're talking about right now. Well, just whatever it is. It applies to you, but it doesn't apply to them. It could apply today, but not apply tomorrow. They're just hypocrites. They'll yell at you for not pulling your car all the way up into the garage. You know, why can't you be more sensitive? Why can't you? Now, this is the people they know well. To the outside people, they're always on their very, very best behavior. But the people that they know well, and they see the real person. Because come on, you can't hide that. And the person that really sees through them, the person they're the most jealous of, that person, they really hate that person. They go all out against that person. And then they're nice to some of the other people that they know well, so that they will side with them as they attack that other person, as they attack their real target, because they always have one main target. That's their scapegoat. That's the person they blame all their problems on. So they can be really nice to other people, even people that they normally pick on. Say if it's a mother and she's got 2 or 3 kids. Maybe one kid just doesn't go along with all the foolishness. And that kid will call them out like, Mom, you're being ridiculous. You're yelling at us for this, and, you never even told us not to do it. And what do you expect us to do? And how did you think I was supposed to do that if you locked us out? So I went over my friend's house, but, what was I supposed to do? What do you mean? You don't talk to me like that. So they'll be nice to some of the other kids. Be nice to the other kid or 2 kids, so that those kids will help her pick on this kid. Just to show that kid, you're not as good as these other kids. They'll pick their favorites, but they don't really like them either, because they're selfish, hateful people. So they don't really like them either. But if it helps them demean you, they will gravitate to that other person. And plus, they can use those other people to punish you, someone else to carry their attitudes against you. So they're amazing hypocrites. If you tell someone what's going on, you should be ashamed of yourself. What happens in this family stays in this family. But so-and-so came back and told me that you told them that, I was having problems in school. That's personal. I don't want them knowing that at my job. I don't want them knowing that at church. Why are you telling everybody my business? And the reason why they'll be doing it is to get sympathy. I'm having such problems out of Carl. He's such a handful. I just don't know what I'm going to do anymore. That's the way they'll tell it and have you looking bad. Not like they're talking about you, but just like they're seeking help, seeking advice, crying out. And really it's just to make you look bad because they want you to feel uncomfortable everywhere you go. They don't want anybody to like you because they don't like you. And they don't want to see you smile because it makes them mad. And I know this is hard to believe. And it's hard for you to settle your mind around why I feel so awful around this person. It's because they hate you and they're doing these things on purpose. Because they want to, because they enjoy it. Because it makes them feel better. Okay. They're very, very secretive. They have a whole secret life. Like they may take a phone call and they take it in the other room. Wait, hold on. Wait a minute, I can't talk right now. No one who's above board has to take phone calls in another room. But then again, they'll accuse you of being secretive. But when it comes to them, it's just privacy. They'll have any kind of excuse. Anything will do. It doesn't even have to make any sense. So if it's them, it's just about privacy and you're intrusive and you're invading their privacy. But if it's you, you're being secretive. This is the double standard. Nothing that applies to you applies to them. None of the rules apply to them. They lay heavy burdens on men's shoulders, and they won't lift these burdens themselves. They're very secretive. They want all your passwords, but you can't have any of theirs. And usually the secretiveness is because obviously they're doing things that they couldn't get away with if they were doing them out in the open. They have no conscience, no respect for other people, so they steal, they lie, and they have to do all that kind of secretly. They have a trail of dead bodies through their life. And what I mean by that, there'll be people who have tangled with them in the past and either stood up against them or found out that they were phonies, because they are a phony. So, people who've been in past relationships with them, ex-friends or family members that saw through them, these people will have figured them out because over the years they've perfected this craft. And in their perfecting the craft, they had a few failures along the way. Some people that figured them out. Some people that called them out and who they can't fool anymore. They got exposed to these people. And these people, when you figure out what these people have done to you, and you realize you're the one that you did what? And somehow they just find out that you were sabotaging their life and you can't tell them anymore you don't hate them. They believe it. So in order to come up with a reason and a cover story why these people are saying these things about them, this is what they say. This is another characteristic. They claim that there are people that hate them for no reason. Why? So-and-so told me that you slept with her husband. Or I ran into somebody came to see me and told me that you used to go to their church and you were sleeping with the pastor and they put you out. Oh, this is such a shame. She has always hated me. She has always hated me and been jealous of me. That's what they'll say. Because they don't want to address it. They just say, you just made that barefaced lie up on them. Now, they'll never, ever go face to face with that person. Well, let's all get in the same room and she said, you said you did that. It was true. And she's willing to come over here and tell you, no, I, I, I'm above that. We're not doing that. I said I didn't do it, and if you can't accept that, well, I just don't know what to tell you. So anything. They'll say anything. They're just, at that point, they're desperate and grasping for straws, and this person is crazy, or they just hate them for no reason whatsoever. And over the years, after seeing different ways that people found out, they get better at their lying. They hone their skills as this pretender. They get better and better at hiding their bitterness and hatred and their craving for praise. They get better and better and more subtle, and they become perfected in wicked wisdom and evil craft and working iniquity. They become perfected in it. And they also move on. They move a lot. They keep the different areas of their life very separate. Like if they worked somewhere, when they leave that place, they cut off everybody. Because when they move on to a different place, they want to create an even grander persona. They want to create an even bigger and better image of themselves. So the people that knew them in the past with different mistakes that they've made and things that have been discovered, they will cut all those people off and they move on to a new place so they can just start a whole new image. They don't allow the areas of their life to become integrated because it won't match up. None of it makes any sense. You're telling people that you're a doctor, and you're telling people that you started your own business, and the people from your hometown know that you never even graduated high school. So like that lady Rita Cromwell that I told you about, she went around the country with her horse business, and she could tell whatever lies that she wanted to, because the horse people, the horse business, they know you don't make money in the horse business. You're in the horse business because you have money. Horses are expensive. Grooming them, providing food and boarding, and they need exercise. They need space. Having horses is expensive. It is the hobby of rich folk. So the people, the circles that she was running with outside the town that she lived in, she had to tell them other things about where she was getting money, because they know you don't make money with horses. You deal with horses because you have money. But then the people in her hometown, they were less sophisticated in those circles. They didn't know the details of it. So she could let them think that she was making money off the horses. But that's not the way it works. They create emergencies. A lot of times when they're cornered or they want to manipulate you and get you to do what they want you to do, they'll come to you with an emergency. You have to do this. I just found out such and such is coming, and I just can't run into her again because she hates me, and this and that happened, and I don't have time to do anything else, and you just have to help me. If they're being cornered, if someone is saying listen, like that woman, you've told me for the last 3 years that you're going to move to come and join me and bring the kids. There'll be some kind of emergency. They'll get sick. Their family will get sick. The person doesn't have to get sick. They'll lie, because remember, there's no lie too big that they won't tell. And the really successful, covert, passive-aggressive narcissist, they will set the lie up well. If they have to tell you something on the fly that's not true, they'll go and cover their tracks later. It's just in case you check. They'll create false documents. They do stuff like that. Okay. They do not communicate directly. They never use direct communication. If they want to threaten you or let you know that they're going to threaten you, that you getting out of line, and they're going to turn friends or family members against you. You're doing something that they don't want done. So they're going to send other family members to punish you by telling them bad things about you. Or they just don't like something you're doing. They'll get someone else that you care about. They'll say, Jimmy is, I'm just so hurt. My feelings are hurt and disturbed. And they may cry and say, Jimmy, he never calls. He never calls me. And it just, you never know how bad it hurts for a mother to raise a child and they never come check on you. And then the other person will get outraged, the person that they tell this to. Now, they don't know all the stuff that she's done to Jimmy. And they'll say, your mom is really upset. You really need to call her. You need to, your mom said that X, Y, and Z happened. Now, she could easily call you, and what the Bible would prescribe and tell us what's right to do is you address that person directly with what's the problem. But they don't do that. Everything is indirect. If they want, this one lady, she said she wanted to tell her mother she thought she was fat. So she told her that another person said that she was fat. I was with so-and-so the other day, and she said that you were wide as a door. And her mother saw through it and said, that person didn't say that. You said that. But that's the kind of thing they'll do. They want to say something to you, but because they are extremely desperate cowards. When they want to insult you or make you feel bad, they never say it directly. They never ever do anything directly. So that way you can't confront them about anything because they never actually said it. It's just always a way that you go away feeling because they said it, but they didn't say it. And they can always say, well, I didn't mean anything by that. I was just thinking that maybe you just wanted to know, and I just can't win for losing with you. That's the kind of stuff they do. And everybody is looking at you like, how could you upset her like that? Oh, you're so ungrateful. That's the way it'll happen. You just can't win. All right. They lack self-control. For all the cold, calculating things that they do, somehow in the midst of that, they cannot control themselves. They may be shopaholics. They may, like I said, when they get cornered and upset, they may fly off the handle. When they are pressured, life's pressures come down on them. They fall apart. They're really, they don't handle pressure well at all. They lack self-control. They can fly into rages, but they're very careful to do it behind closed doors. They'll set you up They will absolutely set you up, especially if it's to protect their reputation. They'll turn people against you with lies, shameless lies. They're very generous with other people's money. They have no loyalty. They're weak and they're weak-minded. So if, like, what I mean by they have no loyalty, let's say somebody's getting a little too close to finding out something about them. They often pretend to be very virtuous. Oh, I was a virgin when I got married. But then here comes their girlfriend from high school who knows that they were really wilding out in high school. And they will say the person was like, no, she had a couple boyfriends before you, and I'm pretty sure they were intimate. They have no loyalty. You've been their best friend, and you've been good to them. Y'all never had any fallings out. But to protect herself, they'll throw you under the bus. They have no loyalty. So she'll say, she said what about me? She was the one that was very loose. She had a very bad reputation. Those guys, she said that was my boyfriend. I can't believe that was her boyfriend. They'll do stuff like that. They'll just throw you under the bus. And again, oh, she hates me. She has always been so jealous of me. She couldn't even see straight. Whatever they have to say, there's no loyalty. They'll even use their kids to cover up lies. Like say, if I'm trying to think of an example of something I know. Yeah, they have kids, they'll throw their kids' business out there in order to create a scandal to take the attention off of something that they may be getting ready to get exposed for. Or if they're looking to get sympathy or attention from someone and there's something scintillating or interesting that could serve as gossip, because they want attention. And knowing gossip and spreading gossip is a good way to get attention. So if it's their kids, if it's their best friend, if it's juicy, they're going to tell it. If it's going to get attention, they'll tell it. So, but they're always going to do it in a way that they're not spreading gossip. Well, we need to pray for so and so. You know her husband left her, right? Yeah, they never were right. So they're extremely materialistic. They are extremely materialistic because remember, they're always trying to create this grand image. So nothing impresses people like stuff. They will sabotage you with your friends behind your back because they like to hurt you. They don't want to see you happy. And plus, you are the reason why so many things are going wrong in their life. So if you're happy and successful, then it becomes less plausible that you're the source of their problems. I'm looking at this dog. Anyway, so like say if you're their if you're their spouse, they have to make you look really bad because they're trying to gain sympathy, and they just don't want you to be able to they don't want anybody to respect or believe you in case you turn state's evidence against them. They not only are they carefully crafting and controlling their image, they're carefully crafting and controlling your image too. Because they may use you as an excuse for things. Well, I can't come to your birthday party because, I told you about my daughter Janet. She's such a handful. Every time I turn around, if I leave her alone, the house will be full of boys. I just can't go. Really, they just don't want to go because they're only really interested in themselves. And at your party, you're going to be the center of attention. And the only way they could be the center of attention is bring you some marvelous gift that brings them praise. Everything they do is to bring themselves praise. And I know this sounds crazy, but there are people like this. They are just like this. And if you ever tangle with one, you can relate to the pain. Okay? They're very, very proud. But they get away with it because they have a exaggerated false humility. The humility is fake. It's like, oh, stop. But what'd you say? Yeah, say it again. They have this false humility. They're extremely proud. But they act like they don't want any praise or any attention for all the wonderful things they do for people. But they make sure everybody knows what they did. Whether it's by doing the things right in front of them or casually mentioning it to other people who will then spread it. Or, leaving the receipts around or letting you know, what you do today? I had to go out of town. Knowing the next question is going to be, what you go out of town for? Oh, I had to, it was nothing. So-and-so broke her leg and her dog died. And I took her a card and I made some fruit baskets. And while I was there, I dropped some of them off at the old folks home. And, oh, yeah, they were so glad to get it because, no one ever goes out there. So don't tell them, if you are dealing with a person like this, don't tell them anything else personal about you. You cannot share yourself with them. Don't let them know where you're going, what you're going to be doing. You don't have to lie about them. You don't have to run from them. But avoid them. Do avoid them. Because everything they know about you, if you meet a friend and you and that friend click and understand each other, if you get into a relationship and you're thinking about this is someone you could marry, don't bring them around that person. Don't bring them around that person because they are obsessed with what strangers think about them. They are obsessed with impressing everyone they come in contact with. So in order to do that, they have to set you up to look a certain way. Because you might tell that person something that contradicts them. They'll sabotage that relationship. They just will sabotage your relationships. Because they need everything that they've told people bad about you to look like it's true. Don't tell them anything. And I'm going to tell you something. This is where that saying came from. When you're planning on doing something and you're saying, I'm going to do such and such a thing. Or it's sort of a superstition that people have where they say, don't tell the devil all your plans. And they say it as though, the devil's there in the room listening, and he's going to personally go and spoil all your plans. Demons can read people's minds. Demons communicate in spirit and thought. So they don't need anything physical to hear what's going on with you. People don't want to believe that. It makes them feel unsafe, uncomfortable. But your protection from demons is your spiritual warfare, not the fact that they can't do stuff, because they can do stuff. But when it comes to voicing your plans and being afraid that someone's going to spoil them, it's not demons you should be worried about spoiling them. It's these hidden narcissists. And also, one thing I forgot to mention, this is also the Jezebel spirit. When they know what you're trying to do, when they know whoever it is that you're involved with, that you like, whatever you have planned, they run ahead of it to spoil it. They just keep those things in mind, and they will ruin it for you because they enjoy hurting you. You don't believe that? You want to think the best of everybody, but these people are not like you. They're evil and they know it. So don't tell them anything, because they'll also use it to be able to paint a more convincing picture of you when they're trashing you to other people. Like, say, you share with them, I've been going through a lot lately. Just feeling, sometimes I just don't know if I'm coming or going. And then later on, you've told somebody the truth about something that they're doing, about something that this narcissist is doing, and they'll tell them, well, she's crazy, right? Yeah, she told me her mind was confused. They'll just use things against you. So the less they know about you, the better. Even to the point where you just say to them, listen, that's personal. I choose not to share that with you. And that's where this idea of having no contact with this person comes from. Because any and every way you allow them to be involved in your life, they literally use that against you. And you can spend a lifetime trying to figure out, why would this person do this? Why are they doing that? Why do I feel this way? What's going on? What am I dealing with? And it's literally that they're demonic. They're demonically possessed. They hate you. They have rage. And this is what they do to entertain themselves. This is how they cope with life. This is how they distract themselves. By playing the greatest American hero and punishing you for seeing through them and not playing along. Another thing, I talked about this, they have rage and they abuse the people close to them. The next one is, you will have no idea that they are the cause of most, if not all, the suffering in your life. You will not know that this person, through their subtle working of iniquity, going in and out among the places that you go, that they are the cause of most, if not all, the hurts and disappointments in your life. Somebody gave an example once of, have you ever had this person's mother, they were talking about their mother, was a narcissist. This type of miserable person that was just full of hate. But, they know, first of all, being a mother is a high ticket item. It gets a lot of sympathy and praise from people. You can't go to a restaurant on Mother's Day because the restaurants are packed out with with kids that adore their mother because their mother was the dearest person to them. Their mother would, kill a bear for them. And all these wicked narcissist mothers, they show up on Mother's Day too. They want what the other mothers are getting, even though they haven't been the same type of a mother. So they know there's a lot of social currency tied up in being a mother. So they play that card a lot. Oh yeah, I raised those kids by myself. Their father walked out on me. Never mind, you ran him off. He couldn't tolerate you. Or you didn't want to be with him anyway. Yeah, he didn't help me with the kids at all. Won't tell you, you made it impossible for him to see the kids. All right. So she was saying that she never, she asked that person, what were your birthdays like? And she said, as a kid, yeah, they were always miserable. Yeah, seems like I would always get in like big trouble. I can say that about my birthdays. I never really noticed it, but I never had any sort of a birthday party, present, card, cake, nothing like that. I never had anything like that. Do you hear me? Not one. And you know why? Because my mother didn't want to make me happy on my birthday. She did not want me to be happy for my birthday. I just realized that as I was telling that about other people. As a matter of fact, I would often get whipped on my birthday. I can remember at least 2 birthdays in a row where something would come up and somehow I would end up in so much trouble that I was, being whipped with a belt on my birthday. Now, how does that even happen? And the reason is you can sit and you can ponder and think of all kinds of crazy stuff, but the reason is they don't like you and they don't want to see you happy. They got something against you and it has nothing to do with you and it has everything to do with them. Don't try to figure it out, and there is an answer. Okay? Another characteristic, they're always the victim. They are victim focused and they love sympathy because sympathy diverts people's attention from your actual behavior. It makes them excuse the things that you do. It makes them feel sorry for you and you're able to fly under the radar with a lot of things. I know a little girl. She is young, not even 10, 11 years old. This little girl, sympathy. This is the power of sympathy. Her mother abandoned her and her siblings. Left them with a grandparent. And that grandparent is caught up in feeling sorry for this girl instead of raising her. The girl is angry. She's angry about being without her mother. And she's also very angry because her mother is they talk about her mother a lot. And she kind of loves and idolizes her mother. Because when her mother comes in, she's always bringing Disneyland. Because she doesn't spend any time with them. So instead of time, she buys them stuff. She lets them do, what they otherwise couldn't do. And just whenever they see her, it's cell phone time, it's iPhone time, video game time, whatever you want time. But not raising them. They go right back over to the grandmother. So the grandmother is caught up in feeling guilty and feeling sorry for the kid. So she doesn't discipline her. And the little girl, I don't see her often, but she told me one time when I saw her that she was a bully. She told me that she was a bully at school. I don't remember how it came up. And I told her, yeah, that's not good. It doesn't feel good when people get bullied. Then I saw her maybe about 6 months later, maybe a little more. She had started a new grade in school. And just in that short period of time, that girl's heart had become even harder. Because when I first saw her, she was open to hearing about the Lord, and she still had some innocence to her. But once she went up to that next grade, she had begun to be perfected in wickedness and in using bullying people as a way to forget about your problems, as a distraction for yourself, as a form of entertainment. So the next time I saw her, I was using a pair of scissors, cutting some elastic on something using some scissors. And the scissors were really sharp and they slipped. And I think I got like a paper cut or something I did to my hand with the scissors. And she burst out laughing in wicked sounding laughter. And she said, I love it when people get hurt. I think it's so funny. And I'm like, okay. I didn't let any of the shock that I was feeling show on my face. Because I remembered what she said the last time I saw her, which was that she was a bully. And I knew that she had lots of anger and had a reason to be angry. And I saw how neglectful her parents were. And I saw how much in denial her grandmother was about the psychological issues that were building up in this girl. And they just want to act like nothing's wrong. Sweep it under the rug. Little girl staying up till 3, 4, and 5 o'clock in the morning. No discipline. Nobody's telling her to go to bed. iPhone 10. Disrespectful. Talking back. And I'm seeing all these warning signs. So when she tells me that she enjoys when people get hurt, and she just goes on to elaborate about how she told me, she said, I'm evil. I enjoy when I see people hurt themselves. And she said some other shocking things. So I'm just like, oh, really? Okay. So she feels free to keep talking. And then about 20 seconds after that, or in the middle of it actually, her grandmother walks in the room. Clueless woman who's just living her life like it's golden. She walks into the room and the little girl says, Mama, do you think I'm evil? Just like that. Do you think I'm evil? And her grandmother said, no, you're not evil. You're not evil. You're a nice little girl. You're a precious girl. You're just like anybody else. You're a precious girl. And God loves you, and I love you, and I think you're great. Knowing this little girl is bad and she needs a switch to her and some discipline. You don't feel sorry for children. You have to raise them. You're firm and fair, no matter what they've gone through. They still need to know right from wrong. Some of the worst people have been through horrible things, but you also know some of the best people have been through horrible things. Like our example, Jesus Christ. So, almost the way that she said it, it had me thinking like, this vicious, wicked little girl is going to have this woman thinking that I just called her wicked, that I called her evil. But really, she was just toying with her grandmother. Are you willing, are you going to be dishonest, or are you willing to say that I misbehave and the things that I'm doing are wrong? She knows it was wicked. She just got finished telling me she was wicked. Mama, am I evil? Do you think I'm evil? Just like that. I never seen anything like that in my whole life. And I sat there and I watched her grandmother go straight to Denial, Ohio. And the little girl just sitting there looking like the cat that ate the canary. So later on that evening, the little girl says, of course, the grandmother's gone, because the grandmother's truly just as neglectful as the parents. Nobody wanted to be bothered. And instead of, they feel guilty on one level about what they're doing, so they just indulge her and don't correct her and let her do whatever she wants. So later on that evening, she goes into more detail about the stuff that she does at school. Flies into rages and gets into fights. She said that she enjoys pushing her grandmother's buttons. She didn't use those words, but she said she enjoys aggravating her grandmother, getting her frustrated and acting like she doesn't know what she's doing. There were some other adults in the room, and she said to them, you guys are lame. And I told her, I said, you're getting a little out of pocket over there. What? What's that? What's that mean? You know exactly what I mean. These people, they're evil, they're wicked, and they know it. They enjoy it. And if this little girl continues in that direction, being smart enough and getting away with it long enough to perfect it, she'll be an expert, covert narcissist that does mean, evil things on the sly. And this little girl misbehaves on her grandmother on purpose to aggravate her. You know why? Because she hates her. That woman probably thinks that little girl loves her, but that's a hateful little girl. I noticed the first time I had encountered her, she was being a sweet, normal little girl. She was enjoying having attention from an adult. She was a little bit healthier at that time. A little bit more emotionally healthy. And I noticed something very passive aggressive that she did. She said something very disrespectful, and she looked right into my eyes to see if I would react to it. And I said, I looked her right back in her eyes, and I said, I don't like for you to talk to me that way. And she said, because she's not used to being confronted, and she backed all the way back down and turned back into a nice little girl. But if you get away with it, if no one confronts you, you get bolder and bolder and bolder. Slicker and slicker and slicker. And you're hateful and you're mean and you just hide it. You just hide it. Because you know it's not socially acceptable. That's why I say they know they're evil. So sympathy allows them to get away with a lot of stuff. I think she was in counseling at one point because they were really severely abandoned by their mother. So they use sympathy. They love sympathy and they don't mind, whipping it out of their arsenal. Okay. They do not respect your autonomy as a human being. They will manipulate you into doing what they want you to do, what they need you to do, or they just would prefer that you do. It doesn't matter if it's inconvenient for you. It doesn't matter if it's not in your best interest. It doesn't matter that you don't want to do it. You shouldn't have to do it. They have no respect for the dignity of each person and the right that we all have to choose how we live our lives. They don't respect that. Of course, they want to be able to be free and at liberty to do what they want to do, but they don't care what you want to do. It's not going to get any type of consideration in their minds. Okay. Okay, I already kind of hint on this. They want to be a hero. And the only consistent thing in their life, the only thing that's consistent about them are their vices. The fact that they're manipulative, the fact that they're full of hate, the fact that they want to be worshipped and praised, the fact that they want to be a hero, the fact that they're always lying. Those are the things that are consistent about them. Everything else can change. The story can change. The rules can change. Anything else can change. But those core motives, being hateful, mean, and enjoying hurting people, controlling people, not respecting other people's right to do what they want to do. Like, it's not okay if you want to go and spend the holidays somewhere else. That's not okay. It doesn't matter that that's what you would prefer to do. Now, I might not like what you choose to do, but I have got to respect your choice to do it. They don't feel that way. If they don't want you to do it, that is justification enough to stop you. Okay. Now, one last thing is they never accept blame for anything. Things are always someone else's fault. Nothing is ever their fault. If they start an argument with you and you walk out and leave the room, whatever happens, it happened because you walked out and left the room. It didn't happen because they started an argument with you. Now, let's say we're arguing because your wife spent the bill money on a pair of shoes. And you're asking her about it, and she So the kids get upset. She starts yelling and screaming. The kids get upset. Now, it's your fault for asking her about it. It's your fault because you asked her about that. Now, the kids are upset because you asked her about something that she did. Not because she actually did the thing, but because you asked about it. See what you did? What do we realize that there's cause and effect in this world? No, they don't. It's your fault. Everything's your fault. You can't win. They love conflict because they're good at conflict. They're calm in conflict. Even though they have no self-control, if they start losing, they lose control. But as long as they started that argument and they started it to escape something that was about to come out, they love arguing. Because they have circular reasoning. Nothing that they say has to make sense. It doesn't have to be consistent with what they said yesterday. So they can always just turn the conversation, lie, use false arguments, change their story, whatever they have to do so that it's your fault. Yep. And there was one more thing that I wanted to say. There was one other really important characteristic about them. It'll maybe come back to me. All right. So related to that dream, I had just probably fallen asleep for like another 10, 15 minutes, seemed like. And I woke back up. So remember that dream started with the characteristics of a narcissist. And then I fell back asleep. And I wrote Boston was 666. And it was related to the stuff about the narcissist. That Boston was 666. And I knew that what it was talking about was the Boston bombing that happened back in 2013. And I knew that it was a signal. Not only was it a false flag, like 9/11, but it was a signal. It was a milestone and a signal that the new world order was going. That we're right on schedule, and here's like earnest money. This is kind of like the down payment on the new world order, so those people, those elite people could, have proof that these demons can bring to pass the stuff that they're conceiving of. That we can forecast this event and we can bring about our agenda. And to prove it, we're going to tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be a big problem at the Boston Marathon this year, and they forecast it, and then they were able to bring it about, and that proves to everybody that they can do anything that they set out to do, that they are to be feared, respected, trusted, obeyed, just like these narcissists. They know that they want you to know that they are very powerful if you cross them. Now, if you trust them, they can deliver, make life nice for you. Because they're this exaggerated version of good, remember? But they're really wicked and there's nothing good about them. But at the same time, they want you to know. We're going to have a bombing. We're going to set off a bomb at the Boston Marathon on a certain day at a certain time. And you just watch the news and watch it happen. Those are some powerful people. But it was a false flag. This is exactly what it was. It was state-sponsored terrorism. And it served the purpose. There was a reason why it was in Boston. And the reason why it was in Boston was because it was a signal to show them, to show people who were inside and who were in on it, not in on it as in helped plan it, plot it, but a signal to Masons and everybody who knows what's going on in the world that they're still headed toward their plans and they can accomplish them, as I said, and that they just have the power to carry out the things that they're threatening to do, and that the agendas are going forward, and that was another step toward world government. This is how. In order to bring in a new government, you first have to cause the people to lose confidence in the old government. They have to feel the old government is bad, against them, out of date, corrupt, just needs to go. Their enemy. And the reason why this was in Boston, listen to me. Listen, 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 listen. God loves you. He loves me. He loves us. He loves his creation. He loves his children. To share with us these things, because I had no idea of these things. I didn't even know what the day of that bombing was. So Boston was 666. Okay, so this is what happened. It was a signal just like 9/11. They forecasted, and it was the gateway to the New World Order. It was the bringing of terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism, to the United States, where, the first time I ever heard of Heathrow Airport, so they was always blowing something up at Heathrow Airport. The European countries were always experiencing terrorism. But it was not something that you heard of here in the United States, because we were still under the protection of God. So they chose that day on purpose. It was April 15th, 2013 in Boston. That day was a day that is a state holiday in Massachusetts that they celebrate in the middle of April every year since the 1700s. I'm trying to think when it became a holiday. Probably right after it happened, the mid-1770s. It was declared a day called Patriots' Day. And it marked, let me make sure. Okay, this is what it was. Each year in mid-April, it says, why do we celebrate Patriots' Day in Massachusetts? Each year in mid-April, thousands of people flock to historic Lexington and Concord and Minutemen National Historical Park to celebrate Patriots' Day. Patriots' Day is a special Massachusetts state holiday commemorating the opening battle of the American Revolutionary War, which was on April 19th, 1775. So every year they have that that national holiday. And that holiday is the day that they run the Boston Marathon. They run the Boston Marathon on that day. And I knew in my dream that the Boston bombing was another 9/11 in its significance. And 9/11 was the galvanizing event that convinced Americans that they needed to be concerned with terrorism. No one's worried about the Cubans, where we weren't. No one was worried about South Korea. You weren't worried about the British. We weren't worried about Russia. We pretty much were wanting peace, not war. So to make sure that people would be terrified enough to give away their freedoms in exchange for a powerful central government and military that they believed could protect them, and also to gain their consent to go to war against anyone who they just accused of doing anything bad, and to set the Arab nations, and this is the reason why they say they're after the Arab nations. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're Muslims or anything like that. It has to do with the fact that there were certain nations that would not allow the central bankers to come in and print their currencies. So in order to overthrow the governments of those nations, to install puppet governments, and to bring in the dollar and Western banking, they went to war against these people. Because to control your nation, all they need to do is control your money. All they need to do is bring you into the global economy. And through loans and credit and debt, they'll take you over. They'll simply just financially absorb you, break you financially through debt, inflation, and interest. So Patriots Day is the day every year where they run the Boston Marathon. And that day is a special state holiday in Massachusetts, which is in mid-April every year, commemorating the 1775, which was the first battle for the American Revolution. A revolution. And then, so in 1776, that is let me look up something real quick. Okay. So that was 1775. So this is the Illuminati. This is a real thing. This is not a conspiracy. This is a real thing. So this is from Wikipedia. This article is about the secret society. Okay. It says the Illuminati is a name given to several groups, both real and fictitious. Historically, the name usually refers to the Bavarian Illuminati, an Enlightenment era secret society founded on May 1st, 1776. So that's when the day that they celebrate their signing the Declaration of Independence, declaring themselves Now, they weren't just fighting with England at this point. Now they have declared themselves an independent nation. So the society's goals were to oppose whatever. We're not even going to read what their goals are, because that's what they're saying their goals were. But the point is, that was the first day of the Illuminati. And also, seal of the United States of America. Is the Great Seal of the United States of America. It has on it 1776. And it is, announcing the beginning of the beginning or the coming of the new world order, Novus Ordo Seclorum. Novus Ordo Seclorum. Annuit Septis. Okay. So, are those just like coincidences? Of course not. And of course, that's right on the all-seeing eye, the same eye that is the same symbolism that's on the dollar bill, same symbolism that is on the Masonic. It's the same thing that's on the Masonic the Masonic seal, Masonic symbolism. That eye inside the triangle with the sun rays coming out of it. Also on the seal of the United States is a Star of David, a so-called Star of David. There's no talk in the Bible of anything as a Star of David. So this is something from the synagogue of Satan. And you'll see that symbol on modern synagogues, because this had nothing to do with the Bible. Then you'll also see so you have this stylized Star of David. It's on our money, which happens to have the same date as the Declaration of Independence, and that Patriots Day that they run the Boston Marathon, which was the target of this false flag event. And it was set, that day was set to commemorate something called the Boston Massacre. Let's look it up. Okay, the Boston Massacre. This is also on Wikipedia. The Boston Massacre, known as the incident on King Street by the British, was a confrontation on March 5th, 1770, in which British Army soldiers shot and killed 5 people while under harassment by locals. So it's kind of like what you saw in the Baltimore riots, where groups of people were protesting the police and people began to throw things at them. So they're, a riot, and the police are there in riot gear, and people are throwing rocks and bottles and anything else they can at them. So this was happening there, and they were throwing stones and other things at what was the police at that time. Now, Boston was the capital, and British troops had been stationed in the capital. And it was said that there were for every 5 citizens, there was 1 soldier. So they were effectively under martial law. And the people didn't like it. Certain people didn't like it, agitators. And they started an incident with a few soldiers. After that, a mob formed. More soldiers joined those soldiers. And they eventually fired into the crowd, and 5 people were killed. So this became known as the Boston Massacre. Now, that's not exactly a massacre, 5 people. But when you hear about, the Boston Massacre, you just think, oh my goodness, 14,000 people were killed. So British troops had been stationed in Boston, which was the capital of the province of Massachusetts Bay. Okay. Since 1768, in order to protect and support Crown-appointed colonial officials attempting to enforce unpopular parliamentary legislation. So they wanted out from under England. They wanted to start their new world order. They wanted to get out from under the debt system that existed at England, that was essentially making them the same type of slaves we all are. And they wanted to start a new pyramid scheme with themselves at the top. So in order to do that, like I said, they had to turn people against the crown. They had to destroy people's loyalty to England. Okay, they had to get their patriotism, their nationalism off of England and the king and on to the idea of this new world where every man's going to be free, where every man's going to be endowed by his creator with certain inalienable rights. And it's going to be different. This is going to be a paradise. This is going to be, bring your huddled masses. Come help us build this new country where, every man's going to have a chance. This is going to be a paradise. But the first thing they needed to do was to create this discontent. And the best way to do that was to create and take advantage of these events to galvanize the people, to manipulate them into supporting what you want to do. Same thing like these narcissists. It's all about what they want to do. What you want, what you need, what's good for you doesn't matter. Anything is justified. They'll destroy you if you don't want to go along. You either go along with it or they destroy you. And this is the way they operate because you don't matter. It doesn't matter that sometimes people have to die to make these things look real. Sometimes if people don't die, that's fine too, if it can work that way. But, sometimes you got to get dirty. So this is what it says. It says, this famous depiction of the event was engraved by Paul Revere. Okay. And it says, Okay. The incident was heavily publicized by leading patriots such as Paul Revere and Samuel Adams to encourage rebellion against the British authorities. The event was heavily publicized. They used it. They blew it up. They made it seem like more than what it was. They mischaracterized it. They set up bad guys. And all it was designed to do was charge the people up to get them to throw their hat in and accept this new world order. Look, England is so bad. Look what they're doing. They're massacring people in the streets. And they call it the Patriot. Okay. This is what it says about it. The date, the location was Boston, Massachusetts, in British America, which is now Boston, Massachusetts, U.S. The date was March 5th, 1770, which was 248 years ago. The weapons were flintlock muskets and clubs. There were 5 deaths. There were 6 injuries that were non-fatal. The perpetrators were the British Army. And I looked at this earlier, and it said the cause of it was state-sponsored terrorism. That's what it was characterized as. Wow. I can't believe that part is gone. It was state-sponsored terrorism. That's what it said. Wow. My goodness. I promise you, earlier this thing said state-sponsored terrorism. So the state was Britain, and they claimed that the British government was just killing people, kind of like how they do, anytime there's a shooting involving a black guy, black woman, any type of violence between the police and black people, or a black person, black young man, doesn't matter. He could have had 15 guns and a rap sheet. They're going to make all kinds of excuses for the young man, and the cop is just wrong. Whatever he did, it was racist. But you can have that same weekend, or in the same 6-month period, one fatal shooting involving a police officer, and 1,000 involving another young black man. And what will they focus on? You'll only hear about the cop. That's what will make national attention. So they considered this state-sponsored terrorism, and they used it to galvanize the people against the British. And they just used it as it just became a slogan. It became the rallying cry. We need independence. So when they do these state-sponsored terrorism, when they do this, they were convincing people that we have an enemy. And we not only do we have an enemy, but we have an enemy within. So in order for us to fight this enemy within, you're going to have to make your life an open book. You're going to have to empower us. Help me help you. So we were willing to accept further erosion of our rights out of terror. That's what terror is designed to do. Make you so desperate for a solution that you'll reach for the boogeyman if he's promising to help you. So it's interesting that this was an event like 9/11. And it happened on Patriots Day. And it was meant to mimic the Boston Massacre. Because the Boston Massacre, as it says, it was an incident that was heavily publicized by leading patriots, such as Paul Revere, Samuel Adams, to encourage rebellion against the British authorities. And in that same city, 5 years later, full-out revolution broke out. And it is celebrated on Patriots Day in Massachusetts every year in mid-April to celebrate the fact that they were successful at what they were trying to do. Okay? The site of the Boston Massacre, the site where all this took place, has a monument of sorts that marks the spot. And it says on there, the site of the Boston Massacre. And you know what it is? It's a 5-pointed star inside a circle. Now, it looks innocent enough, but everybody knows what a star surrounded by a circle is. Now, the star is real small compared to the circle, but the star is in the center, and then there's a circle around it. So you can look on Wikipedia and see that for yourself. Okay, so these men were conspirators. And they wanted to bring in this new world order. So they had to agitate, they had to manufacture this fear in these people. They had to give them an enemy to get them rallied together for war, to get them on board with throwing off what they had and accepting something new. And just like a narcissist, they have to like bring the moon. No one can compare to these people because they promise the moon. And there's a lot of people. I think the worst situation you can get into is if you have a parent that is one of these conscienceless people. But a lot of people, most people are going to run into one of these people as a romantic partner. And this person, again, they'll have a trail of bodies. They'll have a lot of people that they keep captive because they never tell these people the truth. They always leave them hanging on. They act like they're this wonderful person that, I really wanted to be with you, but things just didn't work out. It wasn't my fault. Circumstances. And they don't want to tell you the truth. And that's just, you're not their type. They don't want to be with you. They really liked you, but it just didn't work out. And so there's a lot of men and women who have failed to bond to the person that they married because they're carrying a torch. They're carrying a light. Lucifer. They're carrying a light for someone in their past. And that person, because they love adoration, they love having someone who just thinks they're the greatest. So they'll keep that person hanging on. They'll never let them know, like, look, you aren't my type. You never were my type. I was never going to settle down with you. And they just keep this person thinking that they were, this wonderful girl. And, I married my wife because I couldn't get this girl to marry me. A woman might, I married my husband. He was not as exciting as this other person. You know why that person seemed so exciting? Because they're fake. They're a big phony. They never allowed you to get to know the real person. And you would have found out that real person, not only, they're not just like the person that you married. They're of a lesser quality than the person that you married. Because they're fake. And if they were such a great person, you would know who they are. And the reason why you think they're so great is because they just presented you with a false self. And one thing they say about the devil, the Bible says about the devil, he doesn't let his captives go. He doesn't let his captives go. And these men and women, they'll keep that person admiring them. When they could have just told them the truth. Like, I didn't want to be with you. But they'll entertain them and, let them feed their ego from time to time. And still are never going to be with them. Okay. So, this is super long, but I'm still going to read a couple scriptures. So this thing was just like 9/11. And 9/11, as you know, what happened on 9/11? They created, as a result of 9/11, that was the first incident that happened, 2001, to convince America that we had a new enemy, that enemy was terrorism. And then by 2013, people had become so used to the idea of terrorism that there's some unseen enemy that you always need to be worried about. And they're just, no matter how bad and distasteful it seems to give up some of your rights, well, it just has to be done because that's the only way you can protect you from this horrible terrorism. They're right on your home soil, and they could be anybody. If you see something, say something, because you never know who it could be. And then they're saying, hint, hint, it's the Arabs. And anybody who says that they're exposing the New World Order, they're exposing their truthers, and they don't mention the Jews, they don't mention Zionism, they don't mention the agenda, and the United States connection and protection, and the fact that we are beholden to the state known as Israel. I had a dream that the United States belonged to Israel. We are a puppet of the state of Israel. We are one of the daughters of the whore of Babylon. That's how America is Babylon, because Jerusalem is Babylon. And we're their daughter, we're their whore, and they control us. They're a whore, and we're their whore. And what came out of 9/11 was the Patriot Act. And it was also George Bush Jr. He enacted Patriot Day. Now the state of Massachusetts has its Patriots Day, which is a state holiday, which is mid-April every year. But George Bush, after 9/11, he created a Patriot Day for the nation, a federal holiday. And that is celebrated on a national holiday. I don't know that it's a federal holiday, but it's a national holiday. Every September 11th is now Patriots Day for the United States of America. Isn't all of this just so coincidental? So Paul Revere had this, he painted this etching. He had this etching painted that just greatly exaggerated this incident and just made it seem so horrible. Basically, is the first false flag in the history of this budding United States. And the Boston Marathon bombing on Patriots Day 2013 was, as it is said, as it was reported, the first major terrorist attack in the United States since 9/11. There had been no more major attacks since 9/11, and this was time to hit it again. This was time to reactivate all that stuff and to send us into overdrive and to really get us hot and heavy after the New World Order, to get us into overthrowing our government, our form of government. The Constitution is no longer good for protecting us. If we get rid of the United States, we get rid of the Fed, then we're going to solve the problem, and we're going to have this new world order, this new age, where everything is going to be perfect, and we're going to turn our lives over to the global government, the state, and they're just going to provide us with everything, protect us from everything. Government solves problems. In that paradigm, government solves problems. But in the truth, government is the problem. And there is no solution until the return of Christ Jesus. That's when we'll have a solution. So 9/11 became Patriots Day, and it's an annual observance on September 11th. So September 14th, 2000, so 3 days after the incident, George Bush declared by a bill that each year, September 11th would be called Patriots Day. They never want you to forget that. It's the rallying cry every time they want to terrorize you and get you to go along with getting felt up when you get on an airplane. Ah, the Constitution pesky thing is standing in the way of us being safe. Also, right around that time, you might remember the Boston Tea Party. Now, most of us these days know the Tea Party. The first thing that's going to come to your mind when you put Tea Party is going to be, Sarah Palin, Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, modern conservatism, modern political conservatism. These people, they're part of the plot. Again, they wanted to get rid of the government, and they wanted to get the people on board. They wanted to switch the people's loyalty from the form of government that they had and came to trust, because it was the rich people that were in debt. They're the ones that had something to gain by getting out of this. So you had the Boston Massacre, which was 1770. You have 1773 was the Boston Tea Party. And then in 1775, the Revolutionary War, the first battle breaks out. 1776, they declare their independence and announce the coming of the New World Order. They announce it in 1776. All right. Scriptures. Psalms 55. Give ear to my prayer, O God. Hide not thyself from my supplication. Attend unto me and hear me. I mourn in my complaint and make a noise because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. These are narcissists. They actually hate you. That's the motivation for what they do. It's not because of their sad childhood. It's none of that. It's because they are evil and they hate you. Because you're not. My heart is sore pained within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me. And I say, oh, that I had wings like a dove, for then I would fly away and be at rest. Don't we want that? Lo, then would I wander far off and remain in the wilderness. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go about it upon the walls thereof. Mischief also and sorrow are in the midst of it. You can't believe that this is not a nice, sweet person. You can't believe that it's not a sweet little girl. You can't believe that it's not your mother. You just want to think somewhere inside her she cares about you. But if your skin crawls when you're in her presence, something's warring in her heart. One time I asked God, I said, Lord, what am I? Because it was just mysterious to me. I said, Lord, what am I dealing with when I'm dealing with her? And before I could even finish the thought of the question, the answer came. Demons. Just like demons. That's what I'm dealing with. It's inhuman. But they're in cooperation with these demons because of their rage and their hatred. The demons are like a big stick that they use against you. They know it's wicked. They know it's wrong. They know it's rage and senseless. But they go with it because it gets them what they want. So, day and night they go about it upon the walls thereof. Mischief also and sorrow are in the midst of it. Wickedness is in the midst thereof. Deceit and guile depart not from her streets. This is what's in the heart of these people. This is their hearts. For it was not an enemy that reproached me. Then I could have borne it. If I had just known I had an enemy, I could have taken it. Neither was it he that hated me, that did magnify himself against me. Then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide, and mine acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together and walked into the house of God in company. Let death seize upon them, and let them go down quick into hell. For wickedness is in their dwelling and among them. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning and at noon I will pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. He hath delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there were many with me. God shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old, Selah. Because they have no changes, therefore they fear not God. These people, because they refuse to ever acknowledge any wrongdoing, they're never wrong, nothing's ever their fault, they can't repent. Repentance requires accepting guilt and humbling yourself. These people are impossibly proud. And what I mean by proud, not like they're proud of their doings. There is a sense that they're proud of their doings, that they're smart enough to outsmart you and you can't figure out their real intent. Like the little smug little girl that asked her grandma, Mama, do you think I'm evil? Like, hey, dummy, can't you see I do these things on purpose? Nope, I'm clueless. That's the way she asked her that. Mocking. That's why they mock us. That's why they do things in plain sight. Because it gives them a little cheap thrill. 20 seconds after this little girl opens up her mouth and tells me I'm evil, her grandmother walks into the room with her head in the clouds, who had just got finished arguing with me last time I saw her about a pre-trib rapture. Oh, God is going to take his bride out of here. Oh, it's surely. Oh, I mean, she was hot. Start raising her voice at me and everything. I end up telling her, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to raise my voice, because when her voice went up, my voice went up. And I'm like, whoa, where's all this coming from? So I just apologize for peace and respect's sake, because the woman's older than me. She's obviously somebody's grandmother. So she just got her head in the clouds. And her little wicked granddaughter, who is on her way to perfecting wickedness. You're 11, you're old enough to go to hell. When you know what you're doing, you're old enough to go to hell. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide, mine acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together and walked into the house of God in company. I went to church with these people, and they hated me. We took, let death seize upon them. Let them go down quick into hell, for wickedness is in their dwelling and among them. They have no changes. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. He hath delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me. For there were many with me. God shall hear and afflict them. Even he that abideth of old, because they have no changes, therefore they fear not God. That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong. Why don't they have a conscience? They don't have any fear of God. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. They bother people that are not bothering them. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. This is the covert narcissist. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. You're dealing with this person. They claim they love you. They're in your life. They're always in your face. They're always trying to, get involved with you, be in your mix. But every time you deal with them, you walk away feeling like a truck hit you and it was full of garbage and all the garbage got dumped on you and you just feel awful. You just feel awful. You can't go around anyone that you know that knows them because they've just poisoned the people against you. And why was this? Why is it's so hidden? Because their words are smoother than butter and they're softer than oil. But what's going on is they're at war with you. What do you do when you're at war with someone? You hurt them. You try and kill them. Their words are drawn swords. When they speak to you, they're stabbing you. And you feel it when you walk away. That's why you feel terrible. But there's some kind of disconnect. Things don't match up. So it leaves you confused. You don't know what to believe. Did our government really blow up and demolish the World Trade Centers just to pass some laws? I mean, would they really just blow those people right out of the air? Just blow the building up right out from under them? Would they really do that? And by the way, I do not believe any planes hit the World Trade Center. They just flat out blew it up. They demolished it, pulverized it. Could our government that's sitting there telling us we're not going to rest until we find out who did this? Obama, who sat there and seemed to wipe fake tears away from his eyes at the thought of little children dying in Sandy Hook, which was also another one of these false flags. What was that false flag about? Guns, to get your guns away. So when they finally do have martial law, you'll have no choice but to comply. It's illegal to have a gun. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. But thou, O God, shalt bring them down to the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days. But I will trust in thee. I'm going to make a video. I had a dream. The Lord put it on my heart to share about what to do about ungodly parents. What do you do when you have parents that don't fear God and that are evil and that provoke you? And then you have this commandment to honor your parents. How do you handle that? How do you honor evil parents? Truly evil parents. That a person, if they weren't related to you, you would never, ever see them again. That there's an obligation created. Same thing, it can apply to your husband or your wife. If you had not made the mistake of marrying that human being, you would be so far gone, they wouldn't know where the last piece of you went. And there's a lot of parents, and they're always bad parents. Because who would threaten their kid like this? A disobedient child won't live out half their days. But guess what? Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days. The parent-child relationship is an equal opportunity to be held account by God. And the parents are going to receive the greater damnation because you provoke your children to disobey the Lord when you're a bad parent. When you tell them to do what you say and not what you do. When you're a hypocrite and a liar. And a narcissist. So how do you honor these people if you can't get away from them? What you do is, first of all, make sure you can't get away from them. The number one step is to be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. You love your enemies. Now, does that mean you need to go around this person and try to prove how much you love them? No. It just means that you do what they don't do to you, and that's you respect them. You don't argue with them. You don't yell at your parents. You don't, when you're reviled, you revile not again. You don't stoop to their tactics. You have to be quick to forgive. Anger rests in the bosom of a fool. It's not foolish to be angry. It's natural. But it's foolish to stay angry. Because if you stay angry, bitterness and anger will overcome you. And you've been taught by a good teacher how to be evil. What to do to people to harm them by that same person. And if you don't forgive as quickly as you can, as much as it lies within you, you got to do it as quick as you can. Because if you don't, that thing is waiting to take root in you and overcome you. Because narcissism is like a cancer that is spreading so quickly. It is actually an epidemic now as a psychiatric diagnosis. And young people are being affected at much higher rates than older people. Because they had no biblical training whatsoever to fall back on. They've grown up in an age of of agnosticism and flat out atheism and false Christianity with no accountability, with no repenting and no need of repenting. If you don't acknowledge your sins, you cannot repent. And if you do not repent, you give evil reign in your life. You have to forgive these people and avoid them. If you can avoid them completely, I would suggest that. I would suggest that you avoid them completely. If you cannot be around them without being provoked, if you blow your top every time you go around them, that's not necessarily your fault, because this person is actually provoking you. And the Bible says, fathers, provoke not your children to anger. There are circumstances where you may need to stay away from your parents and only see them when absolutely necessary. And keep it very brief. However little time you need to spend with them in order to be respectful, that's how much time you spend with them. If it's once a year, then so be it. If it's never, then it's never. Because some of these people, as soon as they get in your presence, they start in. They come right for you. And depend on how much and how long you've been being abused by them, your fuse may be real short. And people are going to say, oh, you're supposed to be long-suffering. You're supposed to love your parents. And that's easy for people who had normal, loving parents to say. But there are people out there that you don't know about, that your mind just can't allow you to get your head around. And if we hadn't experienced it, we wouldn't be able to get our heads around it either. But it's a reality that you can't deny. Some people don't believe in demons. They don't believe that demons can talk to people. They don't believe that demons can read your mind. They don't believe that demons attack you. But you can't convince a person that's been attacked by demons that that's true. You can say it all you want to. I'm not listening. If I need to avoid you to be saved, that's exactly what I'm going to do. If I need to see you twice a year so that I can give you a hug and a kiss and say God bless you and keep moving, because I know that if I give you 10 minutes, you're going to have me mad as fire on purpose. Because ultimately what it does is it proves to them, when they are able to do that to you, it proves to them that you're really not better than them. See, everybody's evil. It's a dog-eat-dog world. That's what they tell themselves. As soon as they get you yelling and screaming, that's when they're able to say, see, I knew it. You're so holier than thou, but look at you now. That's what they like to do. And even if you just get on a silent binge where you don't talk to them and you're not yelling back and forth with them, but you got attitude, you haven't really let it go, and you're playing that passive aggressive game with them, they still got you. Because they feel your hatred like you feel theirs. And they like that. You would think they wouldn't like being hated. It's not so much that they like being hated. They like knowing that you're full of hate because now you're not better than them. Now, you think Cain would have killed Abel if he was able to get Abel to offer a lousy sacrifice to God? Then Abel would have no longer been that reminder of Cain's shortcomings. There's always more, but this has been long enough. God bless you.